A draft resolution calling for Israel's withdrawal from Palestinian territory and establishment of a Palestinian state is rejected by the UN Security Council. Its defeat wasn't a surprise. The US used its veto to make sure it wouldn't pass. Diplomats said Washington had made clear it didn't want to vote on such a resolution before Israel's elections next March.
The U.S. voted against the resolution, in the words of UN Ambassador Samantha Power, because, quote, the hardships will not cease until the parties reach a comprehensive settlement through negotiations. Here to talk about where we are in the peace process, a leading expert on the subject and a prominent scholar, Alan Dershowitz. Happy New Year to you, sir, and thank you for joining us here on Midpoint.
Happy New Year. It's very important first to correct the record. Just because somebody speaks with a British accent doesn't mean they have it right. The United States did not veto the resolution. The resolution was defeated for insufficient votes. The United States would have vetoed the resolution had it passed, but it did not pass. So it's important to get the facts straight, and the person who you quoted previously did not get them straight.
All right, good clarifications, of course. 9 votes needed in the Security Council. 8 countries, including France, Russia, and China, supported Palestinian statehood by 2017. In the UN Security Council, 9 again needed to pass that measure. The U.S. one of 5 countries that can veto measures. First of all, your thoughts on the debate inside the Security Council?
Well, it's an absurd resolution because what's happening is the people who have rejected peace are being benefited, and the people who have proposed peace are being punished. Recall that in recently, just before the recent war in Gaza, according to Tzipi Livni and the New York Times reporter Roger Cohen, the Israelis offered the Palestinians a peace deal based on the American peace deal, and the Palestinians rejected it. And what's happening now with these unilateral efforts to give recognition to the Palestinians, it means that the Palestinians don't have to bargain or negotiate or compromise. It makes it much harder for the Palestinians to accept a compromised peace because the street is telling Abbas, why give up anything? We're getting everything we need from France and from the British Parliament, from the Swedish Parliament, from the Spanish Parliament, and perhaps from the UN without having to give up anything. So it makes the two-state solution much more difficult to achieve.
I want to get back to the vote for a second, because it looked like Nigeria was going to vote in favor of the Palestinian statehood resolution. That would have been the 9 votes, enough to pass the measure. Of course, the United States could have vetoed it. Do you think at the last minute Nigeria abstained, and would the U.S. have been forced to use their veto power? Do you believe they would have?
They would have. I know they would have. I don't think it. I know it. They have said publicly and privately that they would have used it. Nigeria and Israel have very, very good relationships. Remember, they have common enemies, Islamic extremists. I also have one more speculation. I doubt France would have voted for it had France's vote put it over the top. I think France voted for it because cynically they felt there weren't enough votes to put it through, and that way it helps them pander to their Muslim voters and to Arab states. But the French foreign policy has generally been the same as British and American foreign policy and Australian foreign policy. On the only way to resolve this is through a negotiated resolution, not a unilateral action by the United Nations.
The Palestinian permanent observer accused the Security Council of paralysis. What kind of role can the UN play in the advancement of the peace talks?
None. The UN can play no role. The UN has proved to be an extremely biased actor when it comes to this. Remember, the UN declared Israel and Zionism to be a form of racism back in 1985 when millions of Cambodians were being slaughtered. They spent not 1 minute on the Cambodian genocide, spent much of their time on an anti-Israel resolution. The UN is part of the problem, not part of the solution. The problem has to come from the Palestinians coming to the negotiating table, negotiating a compromise peace where both sides make painful sacrifices, as Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly said. Israel is prepared to make those compromises. The peace offer that was rejected by the Palestinians would have given them virtually everything they have a right to if they have these rights, and yet the Palestinians rejected it. I think part of the reason they rejected it is they think they will get a better deal unilaterally through the Europeans, through the United Nations, without having to negotiate with Israel. That's wrong. Remember, too, that Israel offered a two-state solution in 1938, 1948, 1967, 1993, 2001, 2008, and 2014. Palestinians each time rejected it. So the idea of rewarding the rejectors and punishing those who have offered peace is counterproductive to any legitimate peace process.
All right, Mr. Dershowitz, we're going to get into more, including the Israeli elections coming up in March. Also, your connection to former New York Governor Mario Cuomo. That's straight ahead, of course.
Great.
The three-term governor passed away on New Year's Day. Much more on that straight ahead here on Midpoint. Thanks so much for joining us for a Friday afternoon.